Yeah, we were talking to an agent last week that's up in kind of Sudbury area, and she was
Mm.
telling us that it's just crazy up there as well, like just nonstop development and people moving up there, migration and so on. So yeah, I don't think you can hide anywhere in Ontario that you'll if you're living somewhere in Ontario, you're going to see your neighborhood increase. And I think I don't know if it was her, but someone was telling us, I believe it was a realtor actually. Now I say this, that they had three buyers buy up north sight unseen. Like they just like, I don't care, I'll buy all three of them. Like just cash, didn't care, just bought as complete investment for future planning,
Mhm.
which
Yeah.
seems to be more and more common.
Yeah, it's kind of wild.
So we've seen.
You're listening to the Ottawa Real Estate Podcast with your hosts, Paul Stevenson, David Warren, and Greg Campbell. Let's see what's going on in the world of real estate today.
Hello! Welcome to the Ottawa Real Estate Podcast. My name is Paul Stevenson. I am here with David Warren and not Greg Campbell. We are very happy to have you listening to the show. Greg usually laughs at this point. So I'm one of the owners. Well, we both are actually the owners of Referral Mortgages, mortgage brokerage here in Ottawa, servicing all of Canada. And we are both mortgage agents as well. So, we just love talking about finances. So if you want to buy a home, you're thinking about buying a home, you're selling your home, give us a shout. That's it. That's the end of the show. Thank you for tuning in.
Great plug.
Quick shout out to North Brew, our coffee sponsor. So if you go to northbrew.ca and use the promo code podcast, you're going to get 20% off your coffee order. That's an unlimited promo, so you can buy as many bags of coffee as you want, and you'll still get the 20%. And 20% of your order actually goes towards the Ottawa homeless community as well. So great coffee, great cause, and great morning, David. You're not in Ottawa. How are things going down there?
Good. I'm just at a friend's in Waterloo right now, heading back to Ottawa today. It was a good weekend. Yeah, overall, not looking forward to that drive down the 401, but yeah.
That's when you really need a Tesla and just set it and forget it.
I know. Oh God,
man! I remember so many trips as a kid coming back from like soccer tournaments, and there was this one time my friend's father was driving, and I'd never really seen the ridges on the side of the road, but after a weekend of drinking in the hotel with parents, they were needed. I was sitting in the back seat, my friend was sleeping, and I was just holding on to my chair, just hoping that we made it home alive. So yeah, get home safely, please. So real estate in Ottawa. Well, you're in where? Waterloo? What's going on down there? Maybe give us a quick for all of our Ontario listeners. Any idea what's happening down there?
Still really busy market here as well. Lots of development. I mean, there's such a strong tech sector here. Yeah, I mean, it's same growth across Ontario. Really, it doesn't matter what market you're in. People moving from Toronto out here as well. So it's kind of same par for the course.
Yeah, we were talking to an agent last week that's up in kind of Sudbury area, and she was telling us that it's just crazy up there as well, like just nonstop development and people moving up there, migration and so on. So yeah, I don't think you can hide anywhere in Ontario that if you're living somewhere in Ontario, you're going to see your neighborhood increase. And I think I don't know if it was her, but someone was telling us, I believe it was a realtor actually. Now I say this, that they had three buyers buy up north sight unseen. Like they just like, I don't care, I'll buy all three of them. Like just cash, didn't care, just bought as complete investment for future planning, which seems to be more and more common.
Yeah, it's kind of wild.
So we've seen a lot of that recently, people from even outside the country buying in Canada. And I know that there was some big announcements last week regarding foreign buyers tax. Maybe you can just touch on that, David, quickly, because that was big headlines everywhere.
For sure. So it's been in Vancouver and the Greater Toronto area for a while now. And the GTA was at 15%. Basically, any foreign buyer purchasing in the GTA, it was an additional due at closing 15% foreign buyer tax. As of last week, the 29th of March, the provincial government changed it for the entire province and increased it actually to 20%. So any foreign buyer purchasing any property within Ontario, it's an additional 20% at closing, which obviously changes things pretty dramatically. It's a very small portion of people that purchase, but really this pertains to if you're not a permanent resident or citizen, that you're paying it. So anyone on even student visa, work permit, things like that, you're still deemed in that same category. So it'll be interesting to see how that, it obviously didn't slow anything down in the Toronto market from when they instituted it. They've had it in Vancouver as well for a long period of time. But it'll be interesting to see how markets like Ottawa absorb that. And a very real scenario that I had came across, this past week is a client of mine. The daughter, they're applying for permanent residency. The daughter and her siblings had all purchased new build homes prior to the pandemic in the same development, a new release. The father is from overseas. He wanted to purchase one of the homes as well and kind of keep it as a rental until he retired. And the goal was for him to move here as well, where his kids were. Minto wouldn't let him sign the purchase agreement because he was not in Canada. And so the daughter signed it on his behalf, like in her name, and the Minto was allowing them to transfer it when he was back in Canada, prior to closing. So the intention was that closing now is in June, that he would come a few weeks before closing and stay here and sign the transfer or the assumption of the purchase agreement, etc. Long story short, he now is pretty screwed. And I had to advise him last week that because she signed the purchase agreement, so if you're a foreign buyer and you signed a purchase agreement prior to March 29th, this tax would not apply to you. However, in this case, the daughter signed it, who's a permanent resident. He did not sign it prior to 29th. So if he goes and assumes this purchase agreement, he's going to be subject to that foreign buyer tax. So I did tell him last week that not only are you buying as a rental, so you have to pay the HST on closing and apply for that rebate, after a year, but now an additional 20% on top of that. So say it was a 33%, 33% on top of the purchase price, out of pocket on top of the 35% minimum down that he's having to put. So I did let them know about that this past week and kind of try and figure out. I mean, we'll probably end up having to close with an alternative lender, but it'll be a heck of a lot cheaper than paying the $113,000 in this foreign buyer tax.
Yeah, and what do you think just with these changes? I mean, it's a huge kind of pill to swallow up front. How do you think this will impact the rental market as well? Just because, all of these are obviously investment properties. These people aren't living here typically, right? They're buying them, like you said, kind of remotely or what have you. So what sort of impact do you think this will have on the rental market across Canada, basically?
I don't know how it'll impact. I mean, really right now, I think we're going to definitely see the rental, investor market kind of dry up. We're getting squeezed right now anyways, with rates being so high, with fixed rates touching 4% for rentals right now with TD Bank or Scotia, for instance, they're over 4%. This really hurts, cash flow on a rental and what makes sense. At the same time, I think that'll also drive rental rates as well to make them come in line where you can actually carry the property. But it didn't really, it hasn't affected Toronto and hasn't affected Vancouver. So I don't know that there'll be that much of an impact, and just such a small portion of people that it does affect. So yeah, I think right now it'll be hard to kind of delineate what is being affected in the investor market from the rate increase versus this tax coming in, because it's such a small portion of people that are foreign buying investment properties or buying property here. I think it'll take time, really, at the end of the day.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. It would be an interesting stat to see, like you said, like what percentage of buyers, and I'm sure the numbers are there, I just don't have them off the top of my head, but what percentage of buyers of investment properties are foreign buyers, like what that actual number looks like, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have seen it before, and I want to say it's like less than 1%, but I don't want to. We'll have to do some digging and circle back on that next week. I don't want to start throwing out random numbers, but I do remember it being a very inconsequential number, but and that's why I don't think that it affected the Vancouver or Toronto market. And it's more of just like a headline grabber and kind of political move than anything. but to that point, there's a good question on YouTube as well from last week's episode about the $10 daycare coming in Ontario. Ontario was the last to sign on in the provinces with the federal government to institute $10 a day daycare, and he was asking whether thinks there would be any ripple effect in the housing market or in that case. And again,
I'll read the question and then we can quickly chat about that too. So it says, now that Ontario has signed on to the $10 a day daycare subsidy, help if I could read. Now that Ontario has signed on to the $10 a day daycare subsidy, should we expect home prices in Ontario to escalate even more due to higher family income and increased buying and bargaining power? Since Ottawa has many well-paying jobs and already has one of the highest family incomes of any city in Canada, that will likely increase because of cheaper daycare. Do you guys foresee bidding wars to soon resume there? Do you think this increase in family income will offset the increased costs from rising interest rates that the Real Estate Association assumes will put a drag on demand for homes in the near future? A few questions in there.
Such a good question. So long. Lots of back. But again, we're the last province to sign on. Quebec has had it for a lot of years. Quebec's is a much different market for sure. I don't think it'll really impact the housing market. I think it just increases discretionary spending. People being, having that affordability to maybe take trips or go for dinner or whatever it may be, or as opposed, things of leisure as opposed to spending it on real estate. I don't think that's, I could see the discretionary spending increasing for sure, not necessarily the spending on housing. I don't think I can't see them being a direct correlation.
Yeah, I mean, the cost for daycare was, for people that don't know, in Ontario was excessive. I mean, I guess, I guess that's the right word, excessive. It was, I think in some cases, like upwards of $100 to $200 a day for daycare. So people were, one of the two people in the household was essentially working just so that the child could go to daycare. Or if you have 2 kids, 3 kids, hypothetically, some families, have 7 kids. They would be paying a lot for that, just to have that daycare service. When ultimately, they could stay home and just not spend the money on daycare. So the $10 a day daycare will certainly, for some families, will create some of that additional, like you said, like money that they're able to spend on other things. Now the question will be, with all the focus that's been put on real estate, will that, I think a lot of people have shifted thinking, okay, well now, the markets have obviously been fairly volatile over the last couple of years. Real estate has been a steady investment. Obviously, we talk about it, all the time about how real estate is, brick and mortar, consistent, especially in Ottawa. So it will be interesting. Extra $150 a week. It's going to take you time to save up that additional funds for down payment or what have you. But like you said, from a discretionary standpoint, they might be able to afford that additional, $300, $400 a month mortgage payment if they buy a rental property. Let's say the rental property, the mortgage is, let's say $2,000 and they're getting $1,500 in rent. Well, now they might, that extra $500 that they have from not spending on daycare, they might be able to now put that money into the investment. So it might not get them the savings they need to buy, but if they already have the savings, it might give them the extra cash flow on a monthly basis to cover that investment opportunity, right? So we could see something. That's the only thing I could really see happening in the short term. Long term, who knows? We'll see. Is always what I say. We'll see, because things in life tend to change day to day. So planning is important, but no one has a crystal ball other than maybe Greg. So we'll see what happens. But and then the bidding wars. I mean, that's something that, to be honest, in Ottawa has really maintained. I don't think there's really been a lapse in the bidding wars. It maybe slowed down slightly over the winter, but I know in talking to Greg this week that almost every property that he's looking at, there's multiple offers. There's, little to no conditions. So, I mean, it's still a very aggressive, competitive market. I think just the headlines, they kind of, I don't want to say wasted, but they've utilized all the headlines, I think, last January, February for, clickbait as far as bidding wars and things like that. I think people are just kind of numb to it now, but it's definitely still happening. It's still, the market is such that it's still very competitive, and there's still definitely multiple offers on almost every property, is my understanding. Have you heard anything different on your end?
No, I haven't heard anything different, and I think that it will continue until there are changes with that process from the Ontario Real Estate Board. I mean, they've talked about eliminating blind bidding and things like that, and having it more transparent things of that nature. I think it'll continue, or it'll always be there. If the demand is there, you're going to have these bidding wars. Really, at the end of the day, how that process unravels will be, or unfolds as far as that bidding process. I think, that transparency, will come into play once those changes are made. But it's if the demand's there, those bidding wars are going to happen. And right now, the demand is still there. Again, I think what might slow that down or change again will be interest rates rising and things of that nature. So, with them, for those that don't know, really over the last month, fixed rates have come up over a whole percent. So they've raised about 33%. You were getting fixed rates in the low twos. We're now talking or mid and actually, low and mid twos 3 months ago. And now owner occupied 5-year fixed, you're in the 3.84, 3.94 range with a major bank. There's been a huge increase, and that's gone with the bond market. Fixed rates are tied to the bond market, Canadian mortgage bond, and it's really gone. That's kind of skyrocketed, and so I think that'll slow down. That's really where the impact's going to be. But
yeah, and a lot of lenders are even at that 3.99 right now. And I mean, going into the spring market, we typically, again, just there's no crystal ball, but historically speaking, usually lenders, because of how competitive the spring market is and them wanting to get those mortgages under their book, they usually will take a bit of a haircut on the rate in the short term, kind of for that, May, June type timeframe, just to get the business in the door. But I think this year, if everyone's sitting kind of at that 3.79 to 3.99 range currently, like 3.89 or 3.79 might be the discount rate. The attractive rate this year might be 3.79, which is, if you said that to us a year ago, we'd think that was poppycock. You know what I mean? It was 2.29, 2.19. Just, the rates have certainly gone up. So I think that will slow. But I mean, just with when homes are going up, at least recently, when your home is going up, 10 to 30% in a year, paying that 4% interest rate still seems like a drop in the bucket. Like you're still even, we looked at it conservatively, on average, home prices in Ottawa are going up 4%. So the interest rate, I know that they're not directly connected as far as return and cost, but when you're looking at a 3% payment or 4% payment on an interest rate and your property is going up 4%, average home price is $800,000. I mean, it's still a very sound investment, even to borrow those funds. If you have cash, I mean, as rates get higher, it might be more advantageous to put larger down payments down because, if you're getting an equal return on investing that money at say 5 or 6% and, you're paying 4%, it kind of makes it less advantageous. I mean, we said in the past when rates are at, 1.5% and you can get 6% on investment, like it's much better to just borrow it. The money's basically free to borrow. But as rates continue to go up and, the amount you can invest at and the amount you can borrow at are almost at par, then, it's obviously makes a bit more sense to put that money into the property from your savings. So we'll see how that'll impact too. I think we'll see more people, as you've mentioned in the past, Dave, baby boomers and that transfer of wealth. I think as rates continue to increase, people will have in the coming years more access to equity and to cash that they'll be able to put larger down payments. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of shifts the markets too in the coming years. But generally speaking, I'd say in Ottawa, especially right now, nothing, business as usual as far as, pedals are down and home prices continue to rise. So we'll see what happens in the coming months, but we're just getting into snow's melting, weather's warming up. This is when people start getting out and things start getting crazy. So I think we've just got a little sip of the fire hose here. And I think the next few months are going to be just as crazy as they were the last 2 years.
Yeah. I think the investor market will really kind of ramp down. So home buyers won't be competing as much with the investors, which I think will be good for those that have been waiting on the sidelines to get in the market. From a rate standpoint, like people, rates are high right now, especially in comparison to where they've been the last 2 years. However, right before the pandemic, rates were at 3.69, 3.79. Yeah. And everything was still multiple offers and bidding wars. So, this isn't new. It's just that in the last 2 years, rates have really been so historically low. And it kind of goes back to though that variable rates mortgages there's such a huge delta right now between, even more so between the fixed and the variable, even though there's, they're going to raise bank prime, but even then you're talking really a 2% plus delta between the fixed and variable. It's wild.
I did a calculation this week for a client, and the difference was almost 2.5% from the rate we were able to get for fixed versus variable. Mm-hmm. So I was showing them, like, you have a 10 rate increase buffer on the the prime. Like, if prime could go up 10 times and you're still at par, like, that's unheard of. I mean, that's very uncommon.
Yeah. No. So in that case, I think, we're talking about the market and whether rates will slow it down or not. When looking at fixed, and that's what predominant portion of Canadians go with, is fixed, and that's because that's what's kind of marketed and pushed. However, there's a larger portion of buyers are transitioning to that variable and looking at that. So I think there'll be probably a bigger portion going that way, but I mean, time will tell. I think we'll see, but it's it'll be interesting. It's certainly be interesting over the next I'd say over the next month to 2 months to see how this, the rate increases impact the market and where that, especially as we're going into spring, like you said, such a busy time of year when, historically people start really kind of dusting off their shoes and hitting the pavement on their house hunt. So yeah, we'll have to circle back. We'll definitely be circling back on it and kind of, earmarking this episode as kind of that starting point, if you will.
Yeah, April 4th. So I think we'll get Greg moving forward every week to give us an update on how many listings, how many sales there's been, and we can just kind of watch the trend over the next 2-3 months to see where that sits. I can assure you in the coming weeks, you're going to see a lot of for sale signs popping up on your street. It's just a matter of how long they stay there before that sold pops up top. But I think just keeping an eye on how many listings there are, how many sales there are, will give us a good indicator as to where the market will keep kind of trending throughout the year. And then we'll obviously keep everyone in the loop as far as where rates are. But I do think in the coming weeks, we'll probably see a few, promotional rates in the kind of 3.69, 3.79 range. And there might have even been an additional increase in the short term, knowing that they want to do that for the spring market. So we'll see where things go. It's kind of, it's anyone's guess. Again, we don't have a crystal ball. I wish I did, but that's just my personal opinion. I just feel like every spring we see some of those promo rates come out just after a recent rate increase.
Yeah, banks are willing to squeeze their margin at this time of year. So, it's not that their cost of borrowing has gone down. It's just that they're willing to just squeeze their margins in the hopes of getting, more loans out the door, if you will.
Yeah.
And it's kind of prototypical this time of year for that to happen. I agree. So we'll see.
Should we slide into the mood boost, sir?
That's what I was gonna say. Let's do it.
Get you ready for the drive home. Put a smile on that face.
Yeah.
All right, I got 3 today. They're all pretty good. I like them all, but the proof is in the pudding. So let's see what happens here. Number 1, if a child, this is good for you, Dave. If a child refuses to sleep during nap time, are they guilty of resisting arrest? Shout out to Ollie on that one. Number 2.
That hits home.
Yeah. What do you call a detective who solves cases accidentally? Sheer luck, Holmes?
Wow.
And number 3, my personal favorite. Who's able to drink 5 liters of gasoline and not get sick? Jerry can.
I love that. That's what you came with. You texted 8 a.m. saying that you have great mood boost. So that's what
Jerry can.
That's what comes. What comes. All right.
I was talking to someone last night and they said they love the mood boost because they just think it's hilarious watching you and Greg's responses. Or it's just like shaking the head, wows. Hey, just sheer disappointment every week. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. We will be back next week as always. Greg will be back. He apologized for not being here today. Shows are released Tuesday at 10 a.m. If you're listening to this right now, hit the subscribe button, give us a review, let us know what you're thinking. If there's any topics you want to hear, shoot them at us. As the market gets wilder and wilder over the coming weeks, we certainly will listen to what your questions are, and we'll try to keep you in the loop as best we can. And again, quick shout out to North Brew, our coffee sponsor. If you go to northbrew.ca and use the promo code podcast, they will give you 20% off every coffee order, and 20% of that goes to the Ottawa homeless community. Thank you as always for listening to us rant and rave and just keep going. And Dave, get home safely, and we'll see everyone soon. Till next week. Adeuces.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe, because we'd really like that.